Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to another edition of Pray on This. I'm your host, John Pray, and before we get going, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, especially now that Bill C-11 has passed and it's going to be the law of the land. It may be the last time you get to see me just be able to speak my mind without being censored by the woke Trudeau liberals. Speaking of woke, that's what I want to talk to you about today is the weird and wonderful world of woke. So most of the time I always take the weekends off. It doesn't mean that I'm still not working on material for stories or shutting off my observations of the world, but sitting down and writing this blog, doing my videos for this channel, and I'm working on creating a new podcast, which I'm hoping to be able to launch in May if my wedding plans don't get in the way. Can be quite tiring. So I always try to take at least 2 days a week and spend it with Pamela or my family, her family, our friends, or our grandsons. This past weekend, we ventured out and went to Toronto to the Toronto Food and Beverage Show, which was at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. To say I was immersed in the world of woke when you're in a building that right across the road is the CBC's main office, located at 250 Front Street in Toronto, Ontario, well, that's a bit of an understatement. I'm still a smoker, I know. I should be canceled because I still smoke a tobacco product wrapped in paper that I light on fire at one end. I'm not even one of those trendy people who's got a vape in my hand. However, when I was outside for a smoke, I couldn't help but think of Pierre Poilievre's statements of common sense. I've heard him say many times at his rallies. It warms my heart to think of the young family pulling up their U-Haul to move into their new home that used to be the headquarters of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Sitting there across the road, I could actually visualize a young couple or young family driving up to do just that. However, when I went back inside, there was a few things that really just made my head shake. And a couple of conversations I had while my wife ventured on with her mom and other family members as I took a seat in the lounge area to imbibe a drink because my bad hip was having a very bad day. At the table next to me, there were four 20-something young women. I know they were all young women because they did something that I've never personally experienced in my life. When our conversation began, they introduced themselves and they all had to tell me their pronouns. Were she, her, right after their names. What started the conversation is the transgender TikTok sensation Dylan Mulvaney and their Bud Light promotion. The one girl who was talking very loud about how great it is, and me, being a natural loud talker myself, said to my friend beside me, "Yeah, that's a real great marketing move." The young lady interjected and asked me why I said that, to which I replied, "Do you really think marketing a product that has been marketed to younger men and middle-aged men, promoted as a product of the weekend warrior sports culture, that you're going to win more customers in that target demographic by your brand ambassador being a transgendered person who obviously doesn't know anything about sports and complains regularly that she can't get a straight man to date her and has no idea why?" It's like the other endorsements Dylan has. Now, I can see the makeup, but feminine sanitary products? A person who has never needed or used the products and never will, endorsing it? One of the girls said, "Well, other products are doing it too, like Hershey's." I said, "Yes, what's that person's name?" And another girl said, "Faye Johnstone." I said, "Yeah, they included her in their International Women's Day campaign." Before stepping on what could be very thin ice, I asked and was told that each of the young women were straight women. Cis women was the term that they used to describe themselves. I said, "Well, how did it make you feel about having to share your day with a person that until very recently was a man? Especially when, after all, you were not included on Friday's International Transgender Day." It was actually a look at disbelief, and then thought. I wasn't sure if I dropped a bomb that was going to explode, but much to my shock, all four of them said, "Well, I don't know." So I asked, why did they refer to themselves as cis women? The reply was, "Well, I'm not a trans woman, nor am I a lesbian, so that's my label." Even more shocked when I said, "Why do you need a label? If there's 20 million women in Canada, and approximately 2 million of them would identify as being a lesbian or a bisexual, and then you can add to that 20 million about 180,000 trans women. But even if we keep it at 20 million, why do 19,880,000 women need a label? All of you are women, and by far 99.1% of you have been women since birth. Now, you may want a label to show your sexual orientation, but my daughter says she is a woman, not a lesbian woman, unless it's to let a man who's coming on to her know she's not interested, and why. Why is the majority bending to the will of an extremely tiny minority? The answer was, well, I guess that's what we're supposed to do. Then I showed him a picture of Avi Silverberg, a strapping lass of over 6 feet in height, 225 pounds in weight, with a full beard, saying, well, this is the new Canadian record holder for female powerlifting. At first, they were like, you're full of it. That's not true. Then it was, well, that's bullshit. He shouldn't be able to compete. He's not a woman. He's not a trans woman. This isn't fair to women. When I said, well, the current record holder that was beaten was a trans woman, and she beat her actual biological female competition by over 100 pounds on the bench press when she set the record. Now she's had her record destroyed by over 100 pounds by a man who claims he's a woman. And I go, but it's still unfair. I said, well, if it's unfair, you must agree that even the trans woman competing is unfair. And then you must agree that it's unfair, even ridiculous, to say that making, say, Caitlyn Jenner or Rachel Levine Woman of the Year, when Jenner lived 66 years as a man, Levine would live 53 years as a man, only to immediately become Woman of the Year after transitioning. How does that make you feel? Well, they were shocked. But instead of being upset or angry with me, they said, what can we do about it? It is what it is. That's what society wants. I said, be like J.K. Rowling or Adele. Don't accept it. Be a TERF and be proud. It got me thinking about other woke topics, like when the Queen died, and some extremely left-wing university professors like Uja Anya and supposed journalists like Don Lemon, no, I will not call him Le Monde, said horrible things at her death, or demanded reparations for slavery. My favorite moment with Lemon was when he was shocked that Hillary Fordwich said, yes, there should be reparations, and the African kings or their descendants who sold their own people into slavery should be the ones that pay for it. While they're at it, perhaps there should be reparations paid to the descendants of British sailors who died on the high seas from 1807, when slavery was abolished in the British Empire, up to when it was abolished in America in 1865. That goes right into the latest by California Governor Gavin Newsom and his commission to pay the living family members of American slaves $223,200 each. A proposal that I find just completely unbelievable. First, how do you prove you're a defendant of a slave? Second, how many people can call themselves defendants of slaves? What's the percentage of slave blood? If what appears to be a white person or an Asian person or a person of South American descent is, say, 1/4 African, that is the descendant of a slave, do they qualify? How many will move to California knowing you're going to get over $200K, just free handouts? Or the fact that California was only part of the United States for 15 years before the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery in the U.S. Constitution. Even though some American slave owners had taken up residence in California prior to 1850, and they brought their slaves with them before it joined the Union, California, when writing its Constitution, did so as a free state. So, as a non slave state, are they actually guilty? The current cost of this idea of Gavin Newsom's would cost $800 billion. I know there's a lot of woke Californians and others that will say, this is a great idea. It's finally paying back the people who were oppressed. But I wonder, how many of the companies in California and wealthier Californians are going to leave the state once it's law? The checks go out in the mail and the taxes skyrocket to pay for it. Woke has even got into sports, and I'm not talking about biological men competing against women. Seems to me to be in sports, they all need to be diverse and inclusive too. I'll highlight the NHL with their Pride warm-up sweater warm-up nights. The backlash that some NHL hockey players have taken for not taking part and their refusal to wear the sweater in support of diversity and inclusion has puzzled me greatly. The outright hate directed at Ivan Provorov, James Reimer, and brothers Eric, Mark, and Jordan Stahl for refusing to wear pride jerseys and take part in that warm-up. All the above-mentioned players and others have made claims that they will not wear the pride jersey because it would be against their religious beliefs. For their beliefs, they have been called bigots, homophobes, transphobes, told they're not fit to be in society, and some have called for them to be cut from their teams and lose their jobs. Where is the diversity and inclusion for religious observers? I'm going to screw this name up. Sid Surexrio, the host of CP24's Toronto breakfast television show, was probably the worst commentator I heard. He wanted the team fined $1 million. He ranted about this was a hockey is for everyone night. Everyone unless you don't believe in gay rights, ... And don't give me it was for religious beliefs, because if you looked into most who say that they are doing this for their religious beliefs, you would throw up at what they saw. Well, Sid, you're a bully, and you're a loudmouth. You didn't even look at what you said, and how inclusive are you in what you're saying? Hockey is for everyone unless you have religious convictions that I don't agree with, right, Sid? To CP24, as a Christian, I am offended, and you should do something about the host. The CRTC should fine Bell Media and CP24 $1 million for Sid telling millions of Canadians that their Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 2, the freedom of conscience and religion, is bull, and it doesn't matter. They can't have that freedom if they don't support gay rights. Well, Sid, you don't get to make that decision, thank God. And honestly, I feel threatened, I'm offended, and I believe Sid should be fired because he believes the group of one outweighs the group of another. It doesn't work that way. The wonderful, insane world of woke, the people who on global warming or COVID-19 vaccines will say, trust the science, or the science says, but will tell you you're wrong when you say biologically you cannot change your sex. Where if you're white, you can only be a racist. And that even when a person of color says, I hate white people because they're white, well, that's not racist. Where all those who suffered slavery should receive reparations, but really mean if your great-great-great-grandparent was a slave in the United States, well, you need to get reparations. And they ignore the fact that if we go back far enough, there is not a single one of the 8 billion people who currently live on this planet who doesn't have a slave in their family tree. What if you're a member of a current favorite victim group, your rights trump the constitutional rights for everyone else, and anyone who disagrees shall be shamed, bullied, and canceled. Where we judge our ugly history, and yes, whether you're white, black, red, yellow, brown, pink with orange polka dots, There is an ugly, nasty past in your history. Every race, every religion, and every belief structure has murdered, tortured, enslaved, and oppressed others for their own benefit. It seems to me with each new generation, there are those who think that the world didn't turn before they arrived here, and that they are so damn awesome that they're a brand new breed of human. Well, you're not. For those who push this woke revolution, whilst Lenin, Stalin, Castro, Hitler, Mao, they all thought they were pretty awesome too. To the person of color critical race theorist, white people have to be racist. You even argue that people of color violence on people of color violence is white supremacy. To the feminist who says to be a woman, you must defend men who decide that they are a woman. To the two SLGTBQAI plus warrior who believes that your rights based on your sexual preferences or your feelings, that you have the right to stomp all over the rights of a religious person. To the atheist who degrades a believer by saying, oh, what? Are you talking to your sky daddy? To the feminist who puts down a woman for choosing to be a traditional stay-at-home mother and housewife. To the very woke, white, middle-class to upper-middle-class liberal who feels you must allow yourself to be put down due to your own guilt or privilege. I have a message for all of you. Screw all of you. First, to the young, you're not that awesome. You lack social skills. And stop believing that if you lived in the past, that you would be some saint and that you wouldn't own a slave or be a Nazi, a guard at a gulag, or hate someone because of the color of their skin or by whom they call God. You are not a superhuman, you're just a human, and you're just as flawed as the people from history and would behave the exact same way if you lived then. For those pushing critical race theory and race issues, always looking for the racist, I'm going to help you find them. Go find yourself a mirror and look in it, because you will find the racist real quick looking back at you. To the atheist, your faith in no supreme being is based on scientific theory, not proof, but a theory. You have as much faith in your belief as the Christian, the Muslim, or the Jew has in theirs. There is no right answer. To the alphabet warriors, I will defend my daughter's rights. And yes, my youngest daughter is a lesbian. I love her, I respect her, and she is always welcome in my life. But no one's rights, even hers, supersede anyone else's. Are you listening, Sid? To the feminist who degrades women who choose what they consider a traditional life of a housewife and a mother over a career. Why are you putting down a woman for her choice? You claim to stand for all women and their choices. The same goes for trans women are real women. If you're not careful, almost every real woman will abandon your feminist ideology, and you will be stuck under the tyranny of men who just believe they're women. Finally, to the white liberal who defends everyone except yourself and your own people. You're not inferior. You don't have any special privilege, nor are you responsible for the sins of your father. You're only responsible for your own actions. And you are not a super person because you put yourself down because of it. Finally, to all the diversity and inclusion people, you are so focused on the victim group of the day. You seem not to care how much you hurt or offend those who are not in your victim focus. We're all human beings. We all matter. And when you think one group is better, or you must put a person in front of another because of their skin color, their gender, or lack thereof, ahead of others, then you are that mythical tyrant you're trying to defeat, made real by becoming that tyrant yourself. please think about things before you speak. And if you are woke, you're not a victim. Stop making yourself out to be one. That, as always, is Pray on This. Hit that like button, subscribe. As always, I'm your host, John Prey, and I hope to see you again real soon. I will be doing another video tonight without a script, just some thoughts about things that I have seen on Twitter and thoughts about the budget over the weekend and the behavior of our Prime Minister. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.